Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. And today we're going to be talking about the Persona 5 equipment. We're going to be talking about when it's good, when it's bad, and whether or not you should be building them up. Let's go ahead and dig in. So we're going to start talking with the Rapier because I think the Rapier is the most interesting weapon out of the bunch. Most of the time, the dagger and the hand-to-hand weapon, they're going to be kind of essential for Joker and for Queen. But I think the Rapier is a unique piece of gear because it has critical hit rate plus 15 on it, right? For all versions of the gear. And it also has an aim version for accuracy plus 16. It has critical hit rate plus 20 for 3 turns to self. So the question is this better than Sword of Light? And I think initially, a lot of people are going to go towards Sword of Light. They're going to go towards Sword of Light for that light attack plus 30, and they're going to say, why do I need the Rapier? They might even throw Spine Blade because she can equip Spine Blade, go for the defense pen, right? Because she does have a passive, if you look at her passive list here, which does include defense penetration in it and is likely going to be set almost all the time. You have a passive for crit 15, crit damage 20. So a lot of people might look at this and say, I'm probably going to crit anyway. Do I really need to set the Rapier as a weapon? And I think for Violet, you will need to set the Rapier as a weapon. And I think the trade-offs for having the critical hit rate are going to be really important. I think the aim version of the weapon is going to be good. Specifically in PvP, I think you will want the Rapier, just so that you can get, that chance to land paralyzed, that chance to drain your opponent's AP, restore your own AP, right? You want those added effects of the critical hit. You also have to consider landing a critical hit is going to add a damage modifier of 0.25. So if you do land a critical hit, you're going to get a 0.25 damage modifier, whereas the plus 30 light attack would be plus 3.30, right? So you're really not losing much, and she's also gaining a little bit more of an advantage. And I think the aim version is going to be the best here with the dominance of evasion in the game, and it actually has a pretty good amount of accuracy on it. It has plus 16. If I was going in like direct, PvE, and I wasn't necessarily worried about either landing paralyzed or draining AP from the opponent, I think Sword of Light would be the way to go, and I think attack would be the way to go, because you're likely going to have such a stat difference with your critical hit rate value as opposed to your opponent's critical hit rate value. You may be running Violet with units that lower critical hit rate on your opponent. Then I think that would be a situation where you wouldn't use the Rapier. But I think for general purpose all around, I think you are going to want the aim version. And I think this will be pretty important since you're not going to be running double crit passives on her, since you're going to want that defense pen passive with that evasion up, and you're going to want that, one other crit damage, crit rate up passive. Since you're not running the 2 crit passives, you're gonna need a little bit more help in PvP if you are wanting to land hits and if you're wanting to land crits. So I think the Rapier is probably the most complex weapon we're gonna look at today, and I think it is necessary if you are wanting to be competitive with Violet in any capacity. Now, the Rebel Knife is another interesting piece of gear, and unlike, the Rapier, I would say this is a pretty non-negotiable piece of gear. You could, of course, run something like Locke's Dagger and be pretty effective as well on Joker, but I think the point here and the point of this weapon is to really, potentially showcase how you could synergize units with multi-type attack types, right? Like which Joker has, and synergize it with your TMR runes, right? This is slash attack plus 10. This is missile attack plus 10, right? That means those are 2 things that you're not going to need on your trust rune on the offensive capability. That means you could put dark attack up, right? That means you could put potentially critical damage up, right? Because you're not going to need that slash attack. You're not going to need that missile attack. So I think it's interesting that we're seeing plus 10 here. We're also going to see when the raid gear comes out, we're going to see the raid gear has a lot of defensive elemental defenses for water and ice plus 10%. And it has, I believe it's slash resistance plus 10%. So it's really interesting that we're getting all of these pieces of gear that kind of synergize naturally with the trust rune system that we have in the game. If I was looking at what type of version I would want to get for this weapon, I would probably get the assault version. I could see getting the AIM version, but you do have a 100% hit with Joker's LB. I think Joker is probably going to be fine, particularly with the fact that we have additional accuracy on GL thanks to the Maidens of the Rose VC. We're going to be in a situation where Joker will have a little bit more accuracy to kind of fend off you know, these evasion light units in the future. And keep in mind, Joker's not necessarily going to be fully relevant until we get Leela and until we get, you know, potentially Fina or maybe Summer Elena, right? So we have some time before he's kind of really going to cook up, and there are other dagger options that are coming out as well before then. So I think, you know, you could do fine going for accuracy. You could do fine going for assault here. I think assault's probably the best just because the attack difference, the 60 attack difference is pretty powerful, particularly on dagger users, I feel like, because they're not usually, you know, more attack oriented than like greatsword users. So I think that plus 60 attack is really going to do you good here. Brass Knuckles. Now you're kind of trapped with this. I really like that this weapon released, and I think this weapon is really interesting. The problem with this weapon is it's the only weapon you're going to be able to use on Queen. You know, it's one of those weapons where it has really high magic, it has really high attack. You potentially want to go for the vital version of this, which is really weird, because that's going to give you 182 attack and 182 magic. It gives accuracy 15 if you get the accuracy version, and it only knocks down attack and magic by 30. So maybe you go for the AIM version. There's just a lot going on here. And this is one of those situations where, you know, we've never really had a viable hybrid unit in War of the Visions. We've never had a unit that takes advantage of both attack and magic equally. And I think what you're seeing here is an attempt to try and make a weapon and balance a weapon around a unit that we've never seen before. And we of course have Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh has quote unquote hybrid damage, which is unique and very confusing and like is completely misunderstood in the community. Like, I've done videos on it, I've talked about it, and it's just like, I still don't know if I know 100% how hybrid damage functions. So I'm glad that we're not going in the direction of like the Gilgamesh hybrid damage. It just seems interesting to me that we're getting like a hybrid weapon instead. And I wonder, you know, as we are going to be using Queen and as we're going to be experimenting with Queen, if there might not be a future where we gear Queen exclusively towards striking, or we gear her exclusively towards magic. You know, it seems like there could be potentially a future. She kind of has both paths available to her, and I haven't seen a lot of people talking about Queen, and maybe that's because Echoes of Mana has come out and a lot of people have been really focusing on that gacha game instead right now. But it feels like she's kind of flying under the radar currently, and she's probably the most anticipated unit that I want to test in my Lightning formation. I want to see if she works. I want to see who she synergizes with. We have Ibarra, we have Esther with that JP didn't have. We also have their, you know, VCs, which both of those VCs are going to apply to her in some capacity. So it's just interesting to consider, you know, that Queen with this weapon may potentially be a viable replacement for Cloud. I don't know if she'll be as powerful as Cloud, but maybe she'll be able to slip in and kind of, you know, fit into a formation, or maybe if you have two lightning compositions, you'll be able to, you know, make that third lightning unit and kind of pull something together. It'll just be really interesting to see. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys are enjoying the content. I know my content's been all over the board right now. We've had Seven Knights 2, we've had Echoes of Mana, we've had War of the Visions. Y'all, this is my life right now. So we're going to be going everywhere. Don't worry, War of the Visions, I'm not abandoning you guys. And have a great rest of your day.